All right, guys, welcome back. Why are jiu-jitsu lessons so expensive, especially private lessons? That's the question I saw today on Facebook. Let's talk about it. My name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top-level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. I'm a black belt under Master Pedro Sauer and Tony Rinaldi. You're watching Professor's Corner. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, ask me questions in the comments. I want to hear them. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm a jerk. Whatever. It helps feed the algorithm, right? So, let's start with how this question came up. I saw someone had posted on Facebook a comparison of a brain surgeon's pay, and it was like I don't know. They figured it out based on like the cost of average brain surgery or something, and ended up being like $167 or $168 an hour or something like that. And they said, I don't think a jiu-jitsu lesson, I should have to pay as much as I would a brain surgeon for a jiu-jitsu lesson. Okay, and I think they were specifically talking about private lessons, so let's start there. So private lessons. All right, if you go to a quality jiu-jitsu school and you get private lessons, you're going to pay anywhere from $100 to $200 an hour. And that's everywhere I've ever been. That's a pretty standard rate for a private lesson. And the higher the rank or the more famous the person, the higher the price is going to be. That's just how it is. So why is it though? Why is it as much as a brain surgeon makes? Why is it more than a brain surgeon makes? Well, let's talk about it. Let's understand, and before we go into this, let's understand we're not talking really about jiu-jitsu so much anymore. I think that what I'm about to tell you holds true no matter what private lesson you're going to go into. If I were to hire a private soccer coach to help my daughters with soccer, I think all of this applies. If I was going to get private lessons, private singing lessons, I would expect the same thing. I would be shocked to walk into any private lesson under an expert and pay less than $100 an hour. I mean, I would just be shocked. That's what I would expect for any private lesson for anything. Whether it's math, science, singing, playing the harp, I don't know. I'm going to expect a high rate of pay because I'm going to expect a high level professional when I do it. Now, if I'm getting someone who's just saying, hey man, I need to make a couple extra bucks for college, and they're not a professional yet, well, that's different. But usually when you're getting private lessons from people, it's for a professional. So let's talk about this, because I don't think it's a fair comparison. Let's start right there. I don't think it's fair to take the average salary of a brain surgeon, compare it to the cost of a private lesson, and pretend that those are the same thing. And I think initially they would say, yeah, brain surgery is much more important. To which I would say, well, maybe if you need the brain surgery, it's far more important, right? But more importantly, that 166 is that brain surgeon's regular rate. I bet there's times when they make way more than that. I bet there's times when they're making $300, $400 an hour. We call that overtime. And when they go on special events and do special things, they go out and they give a lecture. I bet they're making $5,000 a lecture to stand on and talk for an hour. So there's different things that you've got to take into account. So I don't think it's a fair comparison, because we're talking about standard rate of pay for 40 hours a week for a brain surgeon versus rate of pay for a special one-off thing for an instructor. So let's start there. The regular training rate for an instructor, what you really need to look at if we're going to compare apples to apples, is how much are they making per hour. Now, it depends on where you are and what you're doing, how many instructors are they volunteers, are they paid, that kind of thing. But in general, what are you paying per hour? You can take your monthly price, you can divide it by the total number of available classes, not just what you come to, but the total available, and that's going to give you your cost per class in the month. That's what you're paying. So for example, at my place, it's $179 a month. There's 96 adult, and we're talking adult classes available per month. That's about $1.86 per class per student. That's a pretty good rate. Honestly, I don't charge enough, and that's on purpose. It's because in my area, I don't think people could really support much more than $179 a month. And there's discounts available for different people and different things going on. But, that's just a generalized rate for unlimited training. And that's coming with all the amenities. We have mouthwash in the bathrooms, tampons for the ladies. We have shower facilities, all kinds of stuff. So, anyway, and then you could also further subdivide that by number of students, multiply that out, and then you got to divide it out by how much you're paying the staff. Point is, that's how you would come up with your average, what you're actually paying per lesson. So I think $1.86 is pretty good. All right. Now, that's point number one, is that it's just not a fair comparison. You're comparing someone's 40-hour week of a brain surgeon with the 40, the one-time one-on-one private lesson of an instructor. And this is where I would say point number two is that you're not just paying for jiu-jitsu or for violin lessons or for soccer lessons or whatever it is. You're paying for that instructor's time. And remember, their normal job might be something else entirely. From my perspective, I'm a professional jiu-jitsu coach. Or instructor anyway. What does that mean? That means that I train more than anybody else in the school, probably. I go to more seminars. I probably have a better encyclopedia of knowledge than most people. I may or may not have a good competition record. I can tell you in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's about 50-50. I have been doing this all my life, since I was 4. And I do continuing education all the time, not just on martial arts, but also on how to teach, how to coach, how to run a good business. There's all kinds of stuff going into that. Moreover, you're paying for my time. You're paying for me to come in, or one of my instructors that are also teaching. You're paying for them to come in at a time when they aren't normally there. In any other work, you would call this overtime. Right? Like if you're a plumber and someone calls you at 2 a.m. and says, man, my house is flooded, you say, yeah, I'll show up, and my overtime rate is this. And I'm willing to bet you it is significantly more to have a plumber show up at your house at 2 a.m. than it is to have them show up during regular work hours. By orders of magnitude. It's probably double to triple. So keep that in mind as well. You're paying for their time. Why is that important to know? Because they're normally going out with their families, their girlfriends, their wives, their friends. That's when they go to the bar. That's when they go do whatever else it is they do when they're not doing jiu-jitsu. It's their time. And they're allowed to value that at whatever level they want. If they think that their personal time is worth $250,000 to $300,000 a year, then good on them. You should value your time greatly, because it is the one commodity you can never get back. So if I'm going to come in and spend time, and then this is the other part, is it's not just show up and teach a lesson. It's talk to the person beforehand. What are you interested in? What are you trying to get better at? Because I think that if you're going to go to a private lesson and just say, well, what do you want to show me? You're wasting your time with a private lesson. You should be coming in there with a plan. These are the things I need to work on. This is what I'm wanting to get better. This is what I've seen you do and know that you know how to do. How do I get better at those things? If you're not showing up to a private lesson prepared as the person buying one, then you're wasting your money, right? You're just saying, what do you want to show me? Well, that's a waste. Don't do that. That's a whole other video. I can do a whole video on how to show up ready for a private lesson. So you aren't just paying for jiu-jitsu. Think of it as overtime. And when you think of it that way, you think, oh, well, that's actually pretty good. Especially depending on how you do it. Now, usually with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're showing up to the academy, the same place you normally train. But, soccer coaches, baseball coaches, some of these people will show up to your home. They'll show up to your home and work with your kid in the backyard. Or music coaches, they'll show up to your house and play the piano in your home. This is their time, not just at your place, but traveling to your place, prepping everything, getting it ready. There's a lot to work on. And then there's the extra. There's the stuff that you don't see. For example, when I do private lessons, generally, depending on the type of private lesson we do, if I do a full hour private lesson with someone, I like to film everything that I've done and give it to them on film as well afterwards. I don't always do that because I've switched to what I call quick fire private lessons, which are a little less expensive for people because I only do half hours there, and I feel like they get more out of it and they have more time to drill afterwards. So I'll do like a half an hour on the material and then stick with them, show them some drills to get good at that information, and then give them homework. So I don't necessarily film it in that case because I think they can retain it pretty easily, and I'm giving them homework in between. But if it's a full hour private lesson, I'm going to film everything we went over because that's just too much information to remember, and I want them to get the most out of it too. So it's not just teaching you in that case, it's also coaching you. And those are two different things. Keep that in mind. So that's why it costs so much to do private lessons, whether it's jiu-jitsu or learning to play the flute. I don't know. What do you think? What are your questions on that? I feel like if you're just looking at it as a commodity, like, is jiu-jitsu as valuable as brain surgery? I mean, I think there's people who will definitely say yes, that jiu-jitsu will help prevent them from having the brain surgery. I mean that as, I'm being hyperbolic, obviously, but it's I just don't think it's a fair comparison. So hopefully this helps you, gives you a little insight maybe into the background, into how business works as well. Very, very small piece of that. That's a big piece of what I do, obviously, running an academy. But I hope that helps you understand a little more if you were ever wondering. I'm also planning to do a video on the value of seminars because I've seen attendance fall off at seminars. Every seminar I've been to has been much smaller. I was at a Gordon Ryan seminar, expected it to have like 50 people there, and it had like 15 or 20. I thought it would be packed. I thought it would just be like wall to wall, and it was nice for me because we got lots of attention. I think it cost me $350 or $400, and honestly, I feel like I got $1,000 out of it. So I feel like I won the lottery there. He stayed afterwards for a good 2 hours answering questions. He said, he even said like, hey, I know you paid a lot for this, and the last thing I want is for people to go online tomorrow and say I paid $400 for a Gordon Ryan seminar and didn't get what I wanted. And he just sat there answering questions. Whatever it was, he'd show you the move, whatever you asked, he was happy to answer. So I feel like there's been this switch that people, and maybe it's the economy, maybe people can't afford it. That's certainly possible. But I feel like there's also a switch that people don't think they need these things. So I'm going to be talking about that a little bit too. But anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Give me some answers in the comments. What do you think? I'll talk to you later.